are saying that the divine or the higher mind is part of the upper triad, the upper triangle.
Yes.
Okay. And in the space between the triangle and the.
In fact, it's joined because the lower and higher mind are joined.
The lower mind is the one that's striving.
Yeah, to go that way. But
okay.
If there wasn't any link, no communication would take place. So there is a link there. I put this ziggity in there because I wanted to show that that's the lower mind reaching out.
Okay, so the path that you're talking about following is a path of subduing, and I'm going to use that word instead of kill, of subduing the lower mind or the lower self. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said that you can make this by choice. You can choose, you said, to do this. But is it that simple of a choice?
Yes.
Well, let me.
It's just hard to do it.
Well, the doing part is the problem that I'm having here. And to make that a reality in your everyday life, seems to me you must, in order to subdue the lower mind or die to yourself in the world, you have to that's a process. That is a process that requires some effort, some time, and discipline. So that process of killing the lower self, for lack of a better term, means overcoming the lower self, means overcoming the vices that imprison us, and it may be possible to happen quickly, but for most of us, I would imagine that even when we become conscious of the process, we cannot actualize that instantaneously. In other words, to actualize that, you must have your thought, your word, and your action they must be congruent. Controlled, but they must be in line with each other. The thought, the action, the words, the actions have to be on the same thread. If the word and the act, if you have the thought of being virtuous, if you have the thought of being charitable, and that thought does not translate into action, then you're not charitable. You can walk around with the idea of being charitable, but unless your actions are demonstrating that, then you're not that. And when we deal with the intellectual mind, and we come to the conscious level of understanding that we must be a certain way, then in order to make that transition to the higher mind, the work, the effort, the discipline that it takes is more to me than just deciding.
There are many points that you have introduced. It's not a single idea or question, but I want to read this to you first. The self of matter and the self of a spirit can never meet. One of the twain must disappear. There is no place for both. Now keep that thought in your mind. It is from the voice of the silent. Let's reverse your ideology. Who are we? Who are we? Are we the body?
No, we're
or
souls.
are we the essence?
We're the
Okay,
essence.
we're the essence. We're the soul. The soul is the part that grows from life to life through experience, hard work, and pain and sorrow. So, let's reverse the ideology. If I am the lower and I'm trying to reach the higher, I shall never ever get there. But I am the higher coming in to occupy this space. That's how you have to think about it. If you identify yourself with the lower, there's no possibility that you're going to be the higher. because that's not the real self. That's the illusion that the myopic world around us and our thinking patterns and preconceptions give us. So, I am I. This is who I am. This is the individuality that goes from life to life to life. First, this is who I am. Second, the divine mind has to be invited in, because the scaffolding is in the way. It does not allow the occupation to take place. So suppose you have moved into a new home and you're trying to bring in your furniture, but the scaffolding is everywhere and in every room. Where would you put the furniture? On the scaffolding or underneath it? It's in the way. So you have to remove the scaffolding that is there. And the scaffolding is the lower mind. And it has to go. It cannot be in there and prevent the other from coming in and taking its rightful position. And without you inviting in the higher mind, how do you invite it in? Through this process that we describe. I will get to you, John, in a second. Because it is necessary that all these aspects of our lives walk hand in hand. It is not a one-step, one-lifetime process. Patanjali describes this process that we went through on the first page of the Yoga Aphorisms. This is just made in a different aspect of it, but it's the same concept. Because that Raja Yoga that is described in there is wisdom of the ages applicable to the mind and how it is controlled. And he tells us, the sage tells us how to go about doing it. The voice of the silence and the Gita, all three work in conjunction to bring about that effect. And Mr. Judge says we need to learn to make appointments across lives, not just for this one, but for the other ones. Why is that? Who are you giving this promise to? The higher self. This is who you are, but you are telling the higher self, I am going to listen to that inner voice, the anahata, or the conscience of the higher that tells you what not to do, but it never tells you what to do. It never tells you what to do. The higher self invites you and says, I have presented it to you. Now make your choice. Because that choice cannot be taken away from us. This is what makes us human. That we learn through experience. We learn to make the right decisions through experience. And in time, it becomes the preferred action. Preferred action. At first, we're going to struggle. Because here is this 7 to 14 stage, which the child is asking, which is the right thing to do? I am 60, I'm still asking the same question. Which is the right thing to do? I go up to Herb and say, Herb, which is the right thing to do? And he says, I don't know. So this is the reality of it, okay? But it doesn't stop us from trying to do the right thing. Because this is how we learn. We're going to learn to take this scaffolding down. And you take it one aspect down at a time. Once you learn how to do one thing, that will never bother you again. Because if the event comes again, automatically you know what to do. So this is the process. And we're making appointments across lifetimes. Because if you do, what did the Buddha say? The Buddha saw another Buddha. He was a street sweeper and said to himself, I want to become like him. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to know what to do. I want to know how to help people. And through lifetimes, kept that alive in his heart. So if we keep this alive in our hearts over lifetimes, so we shall get there. I will get to John and then to Sandra and then you.
But if we kill out the intellectual mind, how would we operate the computer or go to work every day, or balance the books. I mean,
What is it replaced with? The golden light of the higher is animating all of yourself. So you become the knower of everything. There's nothing for you that you do not know, because wisdom has become the core of your being. You have joined the circle of the brotherhood of men. You become a helper of
we
nature.
go live in the forest.
You can live wherever you are. You can be in the world or in the forest. It makes no difference to you. You are that. What you do in your circumstances is irrelevant. They all have their particular jobs. But let us interject this idea. We can be in the world but not of the world, because there are these beings who are the representatives of the masters. We don't know who they are, but they carry on with their work. We just don't know who they are. There was an example, and I said this before. This guy came to the market in Lebanon or Turkey or somewhere and had a little tent, put his little tent up, had a sign on it, whatever the sign was, and people kept going in and coming out, and he's supposed to be a shoe repairer. Nobody saw him repair any shoes, but the visitors kept coming and coming and coming. And at the end of his month or 2 weeks, whatever it was, he gathered his little bundle of tent, tied it up, and disappeared. The ones who could read the sign came to converse with him. God knows what kind of work they do, but they do it. So I'm saying that they know what to do, and they carry it out with no obstruction or intrusion from the world. If they were to tell us who or what they were, we would then label them, would we not? Because HPP said, what would we honestly do to Jesus if he were to come and walk the streets of New York today and try to heal people? She says, would we ask him, what is it you want? Because that's the first thing we say, what do you want? To people who come to us for help. Would we recognize him for what he is? What about the Buddha? If he came to our door and asked for a meal, would we be willing to give it without knowing it, that it was the Buddha? This is the charity of the heart we are talking about, that we cultivate this regardless of who it is that comes to your door, and be able to extend that courtesy. Sandra?
I have two interesting thoughts that I heard while listening. It was
Okay.
very interesting talk.
Okay.
The one I thought about leadership. I read it somewhere. I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're made to believe that the good leaders are people who have strong foundations, strong beliefs, character, and who act on that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought was saying that this is misconception, that we are made believe, especially in America, that a good leader is a leader who has his own beliefs and strong foundation, but who does what is needed in that situation.
Okay.
And that's the divine mind. I have my preconceptions as a leader. I believe this and this and this. But if this situation calls for something else, I'm able to engage that link.
Yeah. Bring it forth.
Bring it forth. And not to do what I believe. And it's okay. Maybe you believe in a good thing.
Yeah.
The second thought was interesting because that's, I think, something all of us struggle. We all have our preconceptions.
Yes.
And many of them are good preconceptions. I want to do good and I want people to return good. I want to have this society but not that, and that's how things should function.
Sure.
But then the conceptual reality, what actually we're facing, is different. And we're trying to change it to our reality, what we want, what
Yeah.
we desire.
Suit you.
To me.
Yeah.
And that's the primary cause of suffering. That's
Yeah.
where suffering occurs. You're expending energy on something you cannot change, and you're not willing to re-examine your own structures.
Correct.
Because you believe they're good.
Yep.
And what often happens, and I very much like the term dare to kill, because when that intense suffering occurs, because that reality does not match my reality and I'm suffering,
Yeah.
some people make a choice. They dare to kill themselves. They're preferring to kill their body, but they do not dare to kill the lower mind. And
The
I trust
idea.
it.
The idea
the
that is
concept.
wrong.
Yes.
The preconception which is
Preconception
wrong.
that maybe he's even wishing for good,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to accept a bigger
What
picture.
what would that tell you where they are? What are they? They're stuck on that fixed idea.
Yes.
That they're with the infatuated mind, and they're so infatuated with that particular idea they will not move 1 millimeter from it. And they will kill themselves for that idea.
And you have to kill to grow. You have to kill the idea and since
Replace
the
it
killing-
with something better.
Yeah.
Okay, in this here, what we did today, it does not say kill it and leave it empty.